The seventh rule of the Church of Splendor is keep your own counsel. And of course, I've argued many times and in many different ways that all maps are necessarily deceptive, misleading. All testimony is necessarily deceptive, misleading, and typically, most often, in virtually all cases, as far as I can tell, to one degree or another, tendentious. In other words, that the purpose of the testimony is to achieve the objectives and interests of the seller, of the speaker, rather than to most accurately represent the truth, to produce the truest possible map of reality. And it's hard to insist otherwise. It's hard to argue against that proposition, for one thing, that all testimony is deceptive, that all maps are misleading. It's difficult to argue against it, and believe me, I can take apart your arguments against it. But it's also easy to understand why. We are alive. We are organisms. We have needs, wants, desires, hopes, dreams, wishes, passions. We want stuff. We want. We want all the time. Everybody wants all the time, and we want different stuff. I've demonstrated with DISC, I can broadly separate humanity into, you pick them, 12 or 13 categories. If you want to insist that there actually is a chameleon, I will hypothetically allow for the possible existence of a chameleon, but I don't believe it. I believe that everyone will fit into one of the 12 disc pockets that we've talked about, and that each one of us will strongly represent one of the 4 disc pockets, that we will be D, I, S, or C in our dominant characteristic, and then we'll be one of the other 3 remaining categories in our subdominant characteristic, and this behavior will it will show up. These predispositions will show up in choices again and again and again, in freely made choices, yes, but also especially in choices made under stress. The adaptive profile is the one that's most interesting to me because it shows us what people are really like. We revert to type, we revert to the mean, we become most what we are, most authentically what we are. We fake our pretend personality least often, least diligently, least persistently, least well. We are least able to fake the persona we want to represent to the world when we are under stress, and because of that, this is the reason, because of that, we are most representative of the true underlying DISC profile. If you really want to see who people are, put the screws to them. If you really want to see who people are, make them cry. If you're smirking at the idea of making other people cry, you should come talk to me. I'll make you cry in 5 minutes. I'll make you cry. I believe now. 2 years ago today, Facebook reminded me, I had dinner at Chipotle in Tampa, Florida with David Brody, who flew all the way from Korea to come to the 21 convention. And one of the reasons that he came was to meet me, God bless him. That was wonderful. But we talked that night and talked again and again and again over the weekend. And he spent a lot of time with me, and he saw me make a bunch of people cry, including him, including me. But in the intervening time, I've been doing all kinds of disc play, empathy play, salesmanship play, carny play. I've been playing with these ideas for the past 2 years. I hit a point in September of 2014 where I thought I really had a tight beat on everything, and since then the scales have fallen from my eyes and I understand so much more, so much better. To the point where I am disking people with a high degree of precision on the fly, at a glance. I don't even need to ask the questions. If I have doubts, I can ask 1 or 2 questions and I'm done. So if I'm meeting someone for the first time and I'm not quite sure, I have a real strong impression, especially for the dominant characteristic. Man, that shines. I don't have any problem with that at all. But getting to the subdominant characteristic, in order to understand that particular individual in a really comprehensive way, in no time flat, all I have to do is get to that subdominant characteristic, and in many cases I can do it on the fly, I can do it on site, people I don't even actually talk to, which, calls my reliability into question. But when I get a chance to talk to them afterward, I test my conjectures to see how I'm doing. I'm not a C, and so I'm not tabulating my results. You should insist to me with a C. I'm dying for 2 Cs, actually. Give me one high C who likes to tabulate shit, and we'll end up with some numbers for what I'm doing, and give me another high C who is good at math theory, and I will show that individual how to turn everything I'm talking about into a reliable mathematical game theory. For one thing, I'll show game engineers, actual gaming engineers, how to build better games, gamification engineers at other software companies how to build better gamification strategies. But AI, I can show the dumbasses building Turing machines how to build more convincing fake people, considering that most of the people that we deal with most of the time are putting on a performance anyway. Artificial intelligence ultimately amounts to fake people, and there are fake people everywhere. There are 7 billion fake people. I don't know why we need to make more, but the truly authentic people are rare. I said goodbye to one yesterday. My friend Yuri Palenko passed away this weekend. We went to his services yesterday, and I don't want to pretend that I did anything that amounts to anything. I was a terrible friend, and I gave him a little bit of time when he died, but he was his own person. He was a truly authentic man, and that's what I liked about him. I mean, I'm really a lousy friend, period. I'm a horrible person to have as a friend because I'm just too busy. I don't do anything but what I'm doing, and that means I don't ever make time for people. I don't ever make time for people unless it's a part of something that I'm doing. And so poor Yuri, I wish I'd been a better friend to him, but he was his own man, he was his own person, and he couldn't be pushed off his position, and I really loved that. He was happy to be who he was, and those people are so rare. Believe me, I know, because we self-identify. We pick each other out in a crowd, you better believe it. But most of us, most of the time, are putting on this fraudulent dumb show. We're putting on this fake person that we think other people expect. I wrote about that in How You Came to Be Enslaved. If you search for those words on self-adoration, you'll find the essay. But what it is that results in this habituated faking behavior that starts in early childhood, lifelong habituated fake life. You live your whole life. You live 70, 70 years, 80 years, 90 years. From the time that you're 4 or 5 years old, you're awake as a human being, and almost immediately you start portraying a false persona to the world. And you never let that mask slip. You do it your entire life. Ayn Rand presented it in the form of Peter Keating, among other people, especially in The Fountainhead. And obviously she was making a gargoyle, so she made him particularly horrifying. But this is the reality of life for most people, is that they're smiling when they wish they could snarl, and when they're snarling, what they're snarling about isn't what you think it's what they're snarling about, and everything, every little bit of it is a lie. I'm not tying anything together today. If you're looking to have everything tied up in a bow, you're going to the wrong church, because I'm juggling a whole lot of ideas that I've been playing with for the last 2 years in preparation for writing a book called Train Dancing. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, I believe. But the permeation of lies throughout civilization is a matter of huge concern. We know that our government is lying to us all the time, that this is something that I've been saying my entire life, and everybody said, la, 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 and a lot of people like me are unhappy to have grounds for satisfaction of our surmises over the years. But we know from the WikiLeaks emails and from other governmental leaks that the government is lying all the time, that the first story that you hear is a lie, the counter story, the rebuttal that you hear to that story is a lie, the follow-up story is a lie, and the follow-up on the follow-up is a lie. It's all lies. You have absolutely no way of knowing what the truth is about anything, because everyone involved is not just producing misleading, deceptive maps because that's what we do as human beings. They're producing misleading, deceptive maps because they're actively pursuing deception. They are engaged in con games. All of them in government. Most of them in business. And the people in business, of course, are in bed with government. The difference between government and business right now is a line on your resume. Today it says government, tomorrow it says business, and it's all the same thing. But it gets even worse than that. I want you to take a walk around the commercial district of your local town and look for vending machines and see how many vending machines have credit card readers. Credit card readers on vending machines. So you were presented with the opportunity to spend anywhere from 60 cents at Walmart to maybe $3 at the airport for a can of Coca-Cola. No actual cocaine. And you will wear that soda. It's a terrible purchase. It's terrible for you to buy it, but it's really terrible for anyone to sell it. You will wear that soda on your ass for the next 40 years, and you will pay 1.5% interest on that soda for the next 40 years. That you think you're thirsty, and you think that what you're thirsty for is something bubbly and sugary, and so you buy yourself a $3 Coke, not knowing that you just signed a slave contract with someone who thinks that it's right and appropriate to enslave you for life, to encourage you to damage your own health, and to punish you financially for the next 40 years because you were miseducated by other rent seekers in this game, that the entire game is set up putatively, apparently, to take schmucks like you and run you through as many hamster wheels as possible until you keel over dead, either from a heart attack or type 2 diabetes or some other disease that you acquired through allegedly peaceful acts of commerce with allegedly honest and decent fair traders who only want what's best for you. Oh man, what bullshit. And it is all bullshit. It is all bullshit. And you have to stop clinging to any of it. You can't say, oh, this is right and all the rest is lies. No, it's all lies. The person who's telling you that the rest is lies is a liar too. And the same goes for me. I'm not a liar. I'm not trying to deceive you, but keep your own counsel. You can't rely on me either. You can't rely on anyone but yourself. You're in this all alone. This is a fundamental fact of ontology. You live in a walled garden. It's a beautiful garden. But the you that is most fundamentally you has no external existence. It is subjective only. There is no objective you other than the substance of your body, but your body is the robot of yourself, and yourself has no objective existence, has no existence that is not entirely subjective. We're distinguishing objective from subjective, not real from imaginary, a conflation that the objectivists among many others consistently make. But your life is inherently subjective. It cannot be experienced from the outside. It cannot be shared. It cannot be controlled from the outside. But there is no possibility of a mind-to-mind communion with other people. There is no possibility of a conversation with another person like the interior monologue you have with yourself all the time. There is no possibility of that. That in order to engage in that kind of behavior, you have to encode your abstractions, conceptualizations, hopes, dreams, wishes, and imaginings into some objective form, some form that is external to you. And when you do that, you're making a map which is necessarily inherently misleading. You are engaged in deception, like it or don't, because this is what you must do in order to be an organism. In order to represent your view of the truth, you have to represent a point of view, and no one else can share that point of view. You're in this all alone. You're exclusively self-controlled. And yourself is fundamentally unconnected from all other selves. You live in a universe of your own contriving, of your own devising, and the universe outside your mind is an extension, ultimately, of the universe inside your mind. All of those things outside your mind are genuinely real. They are not imaginary. You are not a solipsist. You did not create the world by thinking of it. How did you come to existence? How do you pre-exist existence? It's lies all the way down, it's turtles all the way down, it's cargo cults all the way down, it's bullshit all the way down. And accordingly, you must keep your own counsel, most especially now, when the West is collapsing. Our entire system of cooperation, of civilization, is built on the best possible, most accurate possible representations of reality. And we are ontologically inept at doing that, so we have to work very hard at it, and God bless us, we have worked very hard at it, and we've done very, very, very good work. We've done very well over the past 10,000 years, especially the past 5,000 years, especially the past 500 years, and most especially the past 250 years. Wow, amazing work has been done by people who strive to be objective, to, as much as possible, remove the natural subjectivity from the maps that they make. But meanwhile, we are less and less competent at that. We are less and less well-educated, and therefore we are less and less capable of producing reliable, accurate maps. And at the same time, we are more and more corrupt, each one of us more and more corrupt from the inside out. My friend, the Cul de Sac Hero, produced a wonderful essay this week about a terrible intellectual fraud that he was inducted into and then became complicit in and ultimately broke free from. Unlike Bob Dylan, he hasn't managed to break free from the the con game that he was involved in. The Cul de Sac Hero did, but it's a wonderful essay about how these cults of lies, these cargo cults of lies, come into existence and how they persist and how they destroy the character of everyone involved, most especially the god of the cargo cult. But it's a beautiful, beautiful essay. I will link to it when I post this video. But each one of us, possibly, plausibly even including me, but each one of us is engaged in that kind of stupid, cargo cultish, lying behavior all the time, that we live surrounded, swarmed, submerged, congealing in fetid lies. And your only protection from that is to see with your own eyes, to think rigorously with your own mind, and to keep your own counsel. I'm here to help, but you'll have to do the hard work yourself. My name is Greg Swan. This is the Church of Splendor. I'm so glad I get to talk to you, and we'll talk again next week.